Hi everyone, welcome back to Curriculum Mapping with Google Workspace. I'd like to take this time to share a first look at a new approach to setting up curriculum mapping with Google Workspace. So this is essentially the third iteration, and I like this one a lot better. Part of my goals were eliminating your need to even go to the script editor to get things started. And you should be able to complete all of the steps required in this process in less than 5 minutes to get it going. So I think I'd just take you through a walkthrough and we'll explore it together. So here is the template. I've made a copy that we will go with and work with in a minute here, but I just want to talk a little bit about the components. So we've got a couple of tabs, and it's important that these tabs keep their same name because they are hard-coded in parts of the code. So we want to be sure just to leave those file names alone, as well as the headers in the folder IDs tab as well. So in this process, similar to the other one is kind of getting organized, and what I do is I do that for you with the code. So this will create an organizational structure in your curriculum mapping account. So it'll consist of a parent folder with an admin folder, a unit planner folder, a resource folder, and eventually I'll include things like an archive folder and other options. But for the time being, it's just the admin, unit planner, and resource folders. So that's step one. And then step two is, if you remember in the old process, you had to build a form and create a response sheet and then import that into a Data Studio Google Sheet. Well, I've consolidated all of those processes into step two, and this will essentially create the form and response sheet for you. So it takes away any question about where the columns need to land in your form response sheet, and it makes all the appropriate connections in the code. And steps 3 and 4 are essentially the same. So step 3 will then list all of your unit planners in this Files tab. So that will look very familiar to those of you who've been doing this before. And then step 4, you can schedule it to relist those files now on weekdays instead of doing it on the weekends as well. But I may change this later, but for right now, every weekday it'll refresh at about 11 p.m. and we'll see how it goes during this testing period. But what's nice about this is when you schedule, it doesn't go through the relisting process. It just sets up the script trigger to run the relisting as opposed to setting the trigger and then running the relisting. So it's much faster to complete the process in that way. So let's hop over to the copy of the template and we'll just go from step 1. So if you were to have this template in hand, this is the exact process you would follow. So the first thing is you'd want to set up your Google Drive. And when you click this, it's going to ask you to first authorize the script. So I'm going to do that. Continue. Great. So now we've granted all of the necessary permissions. We'll repeat that and we'll go to step 1. And as I said, this is going to create that organizational structure in our Google Drive. So we're running it. And it says here, your curriculum mapping folders have been created. This sheet has been moved to the admin folder. So let's go ahead and look at the Google Drive, My Drive, and here is the, let's see here, curriculum map folder that was created. And it said it created these folders, and then it also mentioned that that sheet was now moved to this admin folder, which it is. So this is the one that we're working with. So now we're all organized and ready to continue the process. The next step is to create the Google form. So This is what's connected to the Google Docs add-on that goes along with this process. And you'll see here in a minute how this looks familiar. I'm going to go ahead and click Create Form and Response Sheet. So this will run for a minute. And what's nice about this is if you try to do this a second time, it'll warn you that there's already a form attached to this Google Sheet. And you notice here that it says form responses 18. When we actually submit a form, it'll actually rename this to a form responses 1. So that's fine if that says form responses 18 or whatever number it is. It seems to go up sequentially the more you work with it. So this was happening as I was refining the pieces of the code, but it'll rename itself when we submit. So now we have a form responses, and the next step would be then to go in and edit your form. So if we go here to form, I'm going to edit the form. So I've created all of the questions for you, and you can go in and update these documents here. So say, for example, we want to add math, English, and here we can put in our grade levels. So maybe we'll just put really quickly 6, 7, 8. Courses, let's just put a couple here: algebra, geometry, and let's just give it a title. Oh, this is a text answer, so this is where we'll put our title of our unit when we're filling out the form. And then, of course, the start date and end date we'll fill in when we're going to fill it in. And I may look into actually having this data imported from a sheet on this tab as well in the final product, but for right now it's just kind of a manual copy and paste of your own data. And now that form is ready to go. So now that the form has been created, we're going to want to actually submit a unit planner. So with the add-on, remember, when you have a Google Doc open, there's an add-on, and when you launch it, it opens a sidebar, and it pre-fills the very first question. So I'm not going to demonstrate that in this process here, but what I am going to do is just simply launch the form. I'm going to go to the live form, and we're going to work with this document right here. So I've narrowed this down just to the merge tags we're going to be working with, as well as the resource folder. So again, in this template, I built in a resource folder that's connected to every single unit planner. And even if you rename your unit, it won't create a new resource folder because it's connected via the document ID. So a unique Google Drive folder will be created to house resources for this particular unit. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the document ID, and again, this would be put in the Google form automatically via the add-on. And we'll put that right in here in the first question. And of course, this is our modified form that we just added our information in. Well, let's just maybe do geometry instead. Okay, a week-long unit. So now I can go ahead and submit this form, and we're going to watch what happens to this unit planner when I do that. So what will occur is that these merge tags will be replaced with the data from the form, and this resource folder will become a hyperlink to the resource folder to that unit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So we see here it took the name polygons, that's what I called it. It merged all of the data and it created a resource folder for that specific unit. Now again, in your unit planner, it would look much more filled out than this right now. I just wanted to, so you can see the parts that were functioning with it. But you would have other data on this template in a sort of a sequence of where you have teachers work directly on the document with instructions and whatnot. So that is the resource folder and the unit planner creation. And also in that case, the document has been moved automatically for us into our unit planner folder. So if we go into the curriculum map, that the organizational structure that we created before, we'll see here now the polygons document is right where it needs to be relisted when we perform that function. So now, again, sticking with our sequence of events here, now we're going to go ahead and just list all of the files in our unit planner folder. We click here, and this will prep the sheet. And you could actually be on any of these sheets, and it will only activate this files sheet. So I made sure that it wasn't working on just the active sheet, so it'll only connect to the files sheet. And when you click start, this will list your planners, and as you can see, it'll properly align the grade level data as well as a link back to the resource folder. And if we look at this tab, of course, we can see where our folder ID URL was generated and located. So you can see this, if you play this out for, over the course of a long time, and as teachers submit their units, this database will grow over time, and you'll be able to develop a Data Studio file to work with it and filter and interact with it. So without me sort of speaking and highlighting kind of the functionality of it, I would estimate this would take you less than even 3 minutes to complete from start to finish. And then once you got here, you would then start building the other pieces of the process, like the Data Studio sheet, the Google site, and whatnot. But here's a first look at the new approach, and notice we didn't have to go into the script editor at all, so no coding required. Thanks for watching. Bye.